Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful show. It's been an amazing day, 2 days so far. I've enjoyed it thoroughly. So, can I have a show of hands who here in the room and at home is using AI on a consistent basis? Pretty much everyone, right? And have you used it for things like summarizing a report or, using it for content creation, maybe, doing some research? Well, increasingly, people are using it for recommendations, for suggestions. So they might be asking things like, who are the top businesses in your industry? Who's a referred expert in your field? So the interesting shift now is before, when they used to, or we still do, but Google those questions, we used to get a long list of links, and we would have to go away and do our research, clicking on those individual links and seeing where that takes us on different journeys. But now there's a big shift. We're moving away to generative AI. And things like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, I might refer to it always as chat, so others are available. But they will now, you're getting one answer, one synthesized summary, one recommendation. So that's huge. It's a huge shift. And from doing your own research to a recommendation engine that actually is almost like a one-stop shop. It's a place where they want to provide you all the answers that you need, that you don't have to go away and do your own research. So that for me is very interesting and a brilliant opportunity for small businesses. Some interesting stats here. I won't go through them all. The most important for me, because these numbers are changing all the time. The scale of AI adoption is just incredible. So B2B buyers are using Gen AI in their purchasing process already, and you may have found this yourself. 89% of them are using it. So they're using chat to find those recommended suppliers, providers, etc. Now, what is really interesting is that if a company lands on your website and they've come from AI or chat, etc., they are 3 to 6 times more likely to convert, to actually go on to work with you or buy from you, than if they had come from a search engine. So the reason for that is because they are landing on your website, and you're already in some way recommended. There's an element of trust there built in. So, as Ollie kindly introduced me, I'm Alison Shadrack. I'm the founder of Adia PR. So I've been working in marketing PR for over 30 years, and I've been in the entrepreneurial space, running my own businesses for over 20 years. So I've been there, I've literally been in this field of running my own business and using PR to launch and scale businesses. And now through Adia PR, we're helping other SMEs do the same. And what I've found over the years is that, PR really does help to build credibility, visibility, and build that trust. And for me, there's never been a more exciting time to be in business. And I've said this before. I've said that before, like 20 years ago when I was launching my first e-commerce website. But I'm saying it again now because AI is such a helpful tool for SMEs. So let me ask you very quickly, are you showing up in AI searches? So this is something that you might have already looked into, but if it isn't, I highly recommend you go away after this session and have a look and see how you are showing up. So when people search through AI, they're asking things like, what is the best product or company for X in the UK? Who is a trusted expert in a particular field? And compare your business with your competitor business. So try those prompts out and see what sort of research you get, what findings you get. I recently, and when I say recently, last week, came across a product called Searchable. So it's a tool that helps you see how you are showing up on AI. And so I did a little test to see how Adia is getting on. And I have to say I was pleasantly surprised, and really quite surprised, because we're actually showing up very high, #1 position in the visibility stakes. And we're a small business ourselves, you know, and I think this reiterates the sort of David versus Goliath story for me, because here there's a list of some really quite big PR agencies, and we're showing up on AI better than they are. So yeah, that's a share of voice that we're significantly higher than the others. So I'm only saying this to share with you that you may be showing up on AI much better, or perhaps less, less well than you hope for, but you don't know if you don't track, if you don't search, and by tracking, then you can take steps to improve and think about how you're going to improve. So I'm going to take you through now how to do that. Now, earned media drives AI recommendations. Now, what do I mean by earned media? I mean press coverage. It's other people writing about you, talking about you, and 85% of AI citations are coming from earned media. And again, it's because when other people are writing about you, there is an instilled trust. That's that recommendation. Now, your websites are still important too. So that's your owned media. So that's the content that you're putting out on your own websites, maybe your landing pages. And so 44% of responses on things like chat, Claude, Perplexity, etc., 44% of responses are coming from your website or owned media. Now, the interesting thing is that those with positive earned media, those brands are 3 times more likely to win AI recommendation. So again, if you're not doing that earned media, the press coverage, it's unlikely you're going to be picked up by AI. All right, so how does AI decide who to recommend? Well, I've already mentioned press media coverage. That is the #1 thing that you need to be doing. And can I just say that it's not hard, it's really not difficult. So for those of you who haven't yet secured coverage, please know that it's something that all SMEs should be doing and can be doing. Founder authority is really important. Again, people want to know who's the face behind the brand. AI wants to know that too. So AI is mimicking almost what people have your customers have longed for a long time now. So any opportunities to get founder interviews, profile pieces, those are super important because AI wants to know that information. They want the expert comments from the founders. So the more you can share that in third-party sources, the better. Awards and credentials are really important. So we had last night the EB100. So that was an amazing opportunity to get your company known and ranked. So things like that. Awards are super important. Any industry credentials that you can add on to your business will be, picked up by AI. So I mentioned also your website. That is really important, that you're sharing content that AI will pick up. And when I say that, I mean in the sense of when people are searching on chat, they're asking questions. They're not looking for keywords. They're asking specific questions. So it's really important that you think about what questions might they be asking, and then try to put that sort of question and those answers into your, say, your FAQ section of your website, or in some way in your blogs. The more content that you can give through your website, the better. Share some case studies. Those are really helpful too, because you're sharing really how you work, how you help your customers. Your bios are really important. Again, the founder bios, the About Us section is really, really important, that it's consistent with what you're putting out into third-party platforms too. So industry platforms, things like trade associations. So if you're a member of the FSB or the Institute of Directors or any of your trade industry bodies, see if you can get some information on their websites, or any, if they're doing their own trade publications or industry, publications, see if you can get an interview into those or some sort of content, because again, AI, really what it's looking for is consistency across a number of different platforms. And you want to make sure that your messaging, whether it's on your own website or out there on other people's platforms, that it's consistent. And then expert commentary, whether you're providing commentary in third-party sources, or if you're getting other people to talk about you and sharing that, on their websites. Again, that cross-referencing, cross-indexing is really, really important. Okay, so again, I'm going to ask for a show of hands. I'll give you a checklist. What authority signals does your business already have? So what are you doing at the moment? It's always interesting to see who is actually doing media coverage. So can I have a show of hands, and keep them up until I say something that you're not doing. So media coverage in respected publications. We doing that? It's a few of you, great. Awards, industry recognition. Perfect, few more. Founder or leadership commentary. Again, quite a few. Speaking opportunities. Brilliant. And that could be podcasts too. Published case studies. Got a couple. And partnerships with recognized organizations. All right, lovely. So there might be some things there that you are doing, and if you're not doing them, can you think about ways in which you can start to do those? Because really, we want as much of that as possible as a small business. Just to give you an example of one of our clients, aluminium fire systems. So this is obviously on Google, and so we did some research on how they were showing up. And so with a prompt, we put in, I need an aluminium fire-rated window supplier in the UK to see how they showed up. So they actually showed up in first position, which is obviously ideal. And there are others quoted underneath. And then, I'm not sure if that video is going to show actually. No, it's not. But anyway, you'll see at the bottom there's a citation under installation. Well, when you click on that, a little window pops up, as you probably know when you click on those. And again, our client was showing at the top of that list. So that's ideal again. Sorry. Now, just to show you that SEO is obviously still super important. Now, generative engine optimization for those Google AI overviews, we were working, as I said, with my client, but they had an SEO, GEO expert working with them too. And this is what Chris, the guy who was working with them, said when we started doing the PR, so getting the press coverage for them. The work that we were doing aligned with the work that they were doing on the SEO, and the combination helped to secure that top positioning. So again, we don't do these things in isolation. Everything we do to help build a brand helps. So the compounding effect. So one piece of press coverage, one piece of anything is only going to do a limited amount. So yes, you can get visibility from one article. So ideally, you want to be securing, several pieces a month, I would say. As an SME, you don't have to go all guns blazing, securing 50 pieces a month. We just need the consistency. You ideally need to be getting at least 2 to 3 pieces per month. And over time, that drip effect is really going to have a significant impact. So we want to build credibility and trust over time. It doesn't happen necessarily overnight. But when you build consistent coverage, you build authority. And when you build authority, that is when people start to recommend you. That's always been true, right? We know that when we work with people who we know, like, and trust, we're likely to recommend them to others. I've built my business on the basis of referrals and recommendations. But the cool thing is that AI is doing exactly the same. It's no different. It's looking for those signals of trust, of authority. Right? So it's working for humans, and now it's working for AI. So how can you secure earned media? I'm going to run through a few examples just to give you ideas, because a lot of people say to me, yeah, but I've got nothing to get into the press. Who wants to hear about me or my business? It's not that interesting. And I can absolutely assure you, I could sit down with each and every one of you and find examples of how we could get you into the press. So thought leadership and expert advice. These are great ways for you to share your advice in publications. So Elite Business, as you know, has its own business magazine. So this is a great way for you to share your advice in the magazine. Opinions and comments. Again, what is your opinion on the situation? What's happened that you can share your insights into that? Research and stats. Journalists love research and stats, and so does AI, right? So it's going to pull this information. Now, you can share this on your website if you've done a study, but you can also get it into a relevant business publication or a trade magazine. Product placement and reviews, these have always been very helpful. Great way to show off your product and get that third-party endorsement. AI is looking for that too. Case studies, I already mentioned earlier, but if you've got case studies on your website, there's a good chance you can get that published too into, a relevant magazine. News stories. Okay, so we watch the news, we listen to the news all the time. And so, is there an opportunity for you to be invited onto TV or radio, or for national newspapers, they're always looking for experts to comment on, breaking news, something relevant in business or industry. And so, if you can get onto TV or radio, or even, it doesn't have to be national news, it could be local, regional news. They're always crying out for news stories. Launches, you might be launching a new product or service. So again, is that relevant for your industry publication? Can you share your news on there? Trends and insights. So again, what's going on in your industry that you can share your insights with? Always very good at the start of the year or the end of the year, what's worked really well this year or what's coming up in the future. Awareness days, there's a day for everything and a week for everything. So, these are great opportunities for you to hook your story onto. This example, I just wanted to point this out. This was not in the media. This was on a product website. So our client was our client does hormone replacement therapy. And so this was on a website that sell period underwear. And so again, it doesn't always have to be media. A third-party source can be very helpful because, again, of that cross-referencing, cross-indexing for AI. Profile features and interviews, I've mentioned. Again, there's a whole array of opportunities to get your founder stories out there. So this is Amy from Must Have Ideas. They happened to win. They got the #1 spot yesterday in the EB 100 ranking. And that's another one in Entrepreneur Magazine, Alex Wood. Okay, listicles are coming up very favorably with AI. So if you're, the best of the best accountants for entrepreneurs or the best hotels for families in London, those are very favorable at the moment. So this is one of ours, the best family festivals to book now with our client, Raver-Tots, in the #1 position. Okay, so how PR can help you win in the AI search? These are things to be aware of. Your positioning, it's really, really important that you're clear on what you want to be known for, okay? Make sure your messaging is super consistent, super clear. So be specific. So focus in on the precise topics to capture targeted AI search attention. So what are your customers going to be asking AI? So spend some time in thinking about what sort of questions are they going to be asking, and make sure that you're answering those questions. Content creation is as important as it always has been. You want to make sure that your content is raising awareness and that it's also educating people, okay? Then you want to secure the press coverage. But the whole thing I want to make sure you understand is the consistency. So are you actually doing what you're saying? Make sure that you've got that operational integrity. And then tracking. Have a look around. I mentioned Searchable earlier, but there are probably lots of other tools, appearing as we work more and more with AI. So check check your citations and the sentiment. You know, is it positive? We absolutely want to make sure it's positive coverage. So who's talking about you? And like I said, is it positive? So PR has always been important. I've been saying this for years and years and years as an SME myself, but I know how critical it is to help you launch and scale. But now in the age of AI, it's absolutely essential. Now, I've got a little surprise for you. I wanted to invite a very special guest speaker to join me. And it's an AI futurist, an AI expert, and the author of Digitally Curious. I'd like to invite onto the stage Andrew Grill.
I'm back.
You're back. Andrew spoke yesterday on the panel, on the AI panel. And Andrew, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, because I'm talking from the PR side. I am not an AI expert or guru, but you are.
It's very kind of you. So I'm only here because of PR. When I launched the book a couple of years ago, I employed a PR agency because one of the things authors told me was that publishers are great at getting the book out the door and getting it distributed. They're not as good as getting your name in the media. So I employed a company some of you may have heard called The Book Publicist, and one of the things was to pitch me into this event. And I spoke last year, back here again, and that's actually triggered a whole lot of things. So for me, PR has been essential, not just to get known, but also to feed the AI beast. One thing that I'm seeing is that more and more people are now finding me through AI searches. And often people ask, well, why is that? And I've tried to reverse engineer it. What AI systems need is answers to questions. In the old days, you would look for keywords. You'd type a few keywords in and then Google would do the magic. You get 10 links and it's good luck. Most of you have probably tried Google's AI mode, where you type in a query, it's longer than 4 or 5 characters, and it comes back with the answer. What I'm trying to do is make sure that that answer includes me. So often when I speak, I ask people to show of hands who's Googled themselves. Not only should you be Googling yourself and your company to see how you show up, you should also be using the major AI tools, not just to say, Andrew Grill. While I was sitting there waiting to be called up, I actually said, what do you know about Andrew Grill? What ChatGPT then did was went off to see what it had in its memory. And it has all of my media, it has everything there. And that's only because I've had a multi-faceted strategy to make sure my message gets out there.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, I'd love to invite some questions now. Do we have a roving mic? And you can ask questions either to me or to Andrew. So depending on what you ask, one of us will answer.
Hello, first, thank you very much for the amazing talk. I have a question because we heard a lot about TikTok, social media. How would you say optimizing for AI search compares to optimizing in social media content and creating a lot in terms of getting your brand out there? What are the benefits of each, and what would you say are the cons, especially for small businesses? Because one thing I've noticed is you say Google yourself, or like, I've asked about my business, one of the ChatGPT and Claude, and for small businesses, it's really hard to get into the rankings, even if you have a website, because a lot of the databases are like a year out or like 2 years ago, so they don't update the database as much. So what would be your take on that?
Well, I'll just dispute that, because I've been doing a trick lately. So I'm lucky I'm on some internal BBC list. So I get called all the time to give commentary. And so what I do, because AI likes content, I grab the clipping of the radio clip, I get the transcript, I put it on my website. I've done about 650 talks and media engagements. So every single page of those, every single engagement has its own page. So I did a trick one day. I uploaded that. I then asked ChatGPT, has Andrew Grill been on BBC recently? And this was 3 hours later. And it said, yes, he was on BBC Bristol this morning. So I don't know that now AI systems are so behind. They do have a memory, and initially the first versions of ChatGPT had a cutoff, but now they have to kind of interrogate that. What Google has done in their AI mode, it is nearly instant because Google have spent the last 20 years trawling the internet and ranking it. So probably you're going to default to Google now and you're going to type a longer query in. But to your point about social media, it depends on what your product is and where your audience is. For me, with what I'm doing, LinkedIn is so important. And I read a study today, LinkedIn is now becoming more of a trusted authority. So again, type into your favorite chat engine or into Google AI search, what do you know about my business and what do you know about it from LinkedIn? To see if it's actually using LinkedIn as a source. So I'm finding a lot of times my LinkedIn articles are actually forming part of that. So for me, the most important social media is LinkedIn and then websites and then media.
Yeah.
Alison?
Yeah, I definitely think LinkedIn is more and more important for AI. Also, things like Reddit, that has definitely been cited by AI. So that's, that's not for everybody, but for some companies, that's super important. Now, the interesting thing is, as I understand, is that it's picking up content, so text content, but it's not necessarily picking up videos. But having said that, it is trawling YouTube as well.
So Google, because they own YouTube, that is actually your secret weapon. So the trick I've done is, and another thing, if you've got a website, look at Google Search Console. Google Search Console, it's free. All it requires is you to prove that you own your website. So you put a little cookie on there or something like that. So I now, at actionalfutures.com, I can now inject my latest content into the search engine, and within a few hours it'll update that. What I found is even more sticky is if I have some video content on YouTube, that almost immediately goes into the AI index because Google owns YouTube. So YouTube has now become even more important. You're right that it doesn't necessarily search the video, but get an AI tool to transcribe the video and then put the transcript of the video on the website so it's got some text to grab. These are not tricks. This is just basically how do I expose my content in ways that AI and humans can actually grab. One other thing I'd like to add is that AI, because it likes answers to questions, you talked about listicles. FAQs are really, really important, not just for humans, but also AI says, oh, you've given me a structured way to find out more about Andrew. And an FAQ can look okay to a human. An FAQ is gold dust to an AI engine.
And I also want to reiterate that, AI is, what we're talking about today is PR in the age of AI. It's still really important that we're doing the work to attract customers in the traditional way. So social media is super important. That's not going away. It's just what can we do on top of that to help attract AI too.
Great question.
Do we have any other questions? The back there. Do we have a mic?
You're in the red shirt, you're next.
Thank you. I'm Peter Lever from Evie. So as we've been talking, obviously we're talking about PR here and AI. If we go back to PR, one of the things on your list was awards.
Yes.
As we've been listening to you now, I've actually just been shortlisted for an award.
Oh, congratulations.
But thank you. The question is, it's quite a prestigious one, and it's a national award.
Okay.
But you still have to pay to go.
Yes.
Do you feel that that's actually quite fair? Because basically, if I didn't go, I don't think I'd win.
Okay, so
is that a real award then?
Here. So a lot of awards are doing that. It's free to enter, but then you pay to attend the awards ceremony. Now, will you win if you don't go? Will that scupper your potential of winning if you don't go? I don't believe that to be the case. Having said that, I think it is important to show up. It's good because there's so many elements to that. You don't know who else is going to be in the room that could be a potential client or could open doors to something else. So it's always good to network. It's always good to celebrate your team and give them a pat on the back. Even if you don't win, it's still a win in the sense of you've been, shortlisted. That to me is a success. And then you want to make sure you get some press coverage on the back of that.
I'll give you a pragmatic answer. So even if you don't win, you're in the room, you have video content. From this event, I now have 2 pieces of video content, my panel yesterday and what I'm doing right now. Hello. I've got video content that we can then use, and it is then authority, because Elite Business Magazine, Elite Business Live, is a well-known organisation. That is trusted domain authority. So anything you've got that your competitor doesn't have, why wouldn't you leverage that? Pay to play, that's a whole other discussion, but while you're there, make sure you get pictures and you put it out there, and if you're shortlisted. So my book didn't win Business Book of the Year, but it was shortlisted. I made sure I went, and I made sure I got lots of pictures.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, there's a gentleman at the back who was there before. Sorry, we'll come to you.
Hello, my name's Joshua Sly. I'm here with Dash Insight. And my question is, as a founder with broad interests, how early can I benefit from a planned PR strategy? And is there a way or need to separate my content / presence online from professional versus my alternative interests?
Can I ask what you're doing?
Sure. Yeah, Dash Insight is business insights backed by data, helping kind of small and growing companies that maybe they don't have the resources for a full data analyst team or some consultancy level decision making, and using that almost as fractional.
Okay. Well, I definitely think, that's great. You probably have a ton of advice that you can share with people that you would normally share with them, say, if you're having a one-to-one conversation. Well, see if you can get that into, a specific business publication, maybe Elite Business, and share your advice. What do your ideal customers need to know that they don't know already? There's lots of us walking around, we don't know what we don't know. So how can you share your advice and put that into an article? Like Andrew said earlier, then you can share that on social too. So it's never too early to start doing that.
The second part of the question as well. Sorry, just I've got quite a creative background, and I'd like to be quite creative in other worlds of my, of my life, of my existence. I'm mindful that the creative, free-spirited side of what I'm doing could impact my authority in the business space. I don't lead a double life, but I've got 2 sides to me.
Okay.
Can I answer that? In the age of AI, it will find both of your personalities. You can't hide. In the old days, you could have it separately, and I was on stage and people would say, do I need a personal or private? In the world of AI, it will marry the 2 together. Embrace that.
Yeah, I think you have to find a way to do it that you're comfortable with, because it will find it. And this is what I was talking about earlier with consistency. People are talking about BrewDog at the moment. They were doing so well. But then a lot of negative press came up. And in the old days, you could try to, PR agencies would try to push that negative news down and fill it up with, positive news. But AI just brings it up. And when you've got that inconsistency of saying one thing, but other people saying another thing, and then your earnings report is saying another thing, it just paints a confused picture. So.
Alison, a couple of great questions on the online questions there. You take those.
So I've got a question here. I really want to speak more about my brand to the press. What is the best way to get in touch with journalists? Okay, so if you're going to go direct, a lot of journalists do share their contact information online. It could be through, their publication, or you can try and reach them on LinkedIn. Twitter, back in the day, used to be a great place to do that. The fewer and fewer now on X. But LinkedIn is a great place to sort of connect with journalists. But otherwise, try and find their details online or reach out to the publication. And then we have
Second question. Yep.
Yep, another question. How do I make my business sound press-worthy? It's difficult to know what journalists want. I send a lot of press releases, but they keep ignoring them. Okay, so a lot of information here. So journalists are very, very time poor. And if you're not sending them content that is really super relevant for them, they'll generally ignore it. Not many journalists come back and say thanks, but no thanks. Some do. Generally, they'll just ignore it and move on to the next because they receive so many emails, so many contacts.
Yesterday, I was offered the opportunity to meet with Andrew Hill, who's the FT business editor. Rather than doing it online, there are one street over. I had 50 minutes with the FT's business editor. That's gold. We now have a relationship. It was fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, it's lovely to build those relationships. It can take time, but definitely make sure that you're speaking with the right journalists who you think, you do your research and just check, are they writing about the sorts of things, not identical, because they're not going to cover an identical story, 2 days later, but is it the sort of thing that they could write about that would be relevant for their audience too? So I just wanted to, and I'm happy to answer more questions. We've got 2
minutes left.
2 minutes for
who can
another
squeeze
question.
2 questions in 2 minutes? One question there, one question there. Wait for the mic because the online viewers want to hear this. Yeah.
I just wanted to invite, if you would like to take this conversation further, I'm going to be doing an AI visibility and authority workshop. It's absolutely free of charge to everyone in the room. So if you want to do that, just sign up and register your interest. I've got a waiting list, but I will be doing that probably towards the end of this month. But I would love to see you there, and we can spend much more time on this and go a bit deeper.
Hi, my name's Ricky. I run co-founder of a company called Stixology, herbs and spice and tea. And majority of the business is export. You may have answered it in the last question where you're saying it's merged between your personal and. So I'm just talking about segmentation. When you do PR, should we look at? So we're in the US at the moment, and that's our biggest focus with our product range and getting out there. Should we get PR in the US as well as our teams in the UK?
Ideally, yeah. You want to be in front of your audience, your target client. So, wherever they are, you need to be. So think about, what are they reading? What are they watching? What are they listening to? And that's where you want to be. So it's not about you. PR is never about you. It's about them. Them being your customers, your stockists, your policymakers, whoever you're trying to get the attention of, think about them. Where are they? And go there. Right.
Finished on time.
We're going to wrap it up here, I'm afraid, but I'd love to answer your question afterwards. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and thank you very much to our special guest, Andrew Grill.
Thank you both. Andrew, lovely to see you. Thank you. Andrew, stay 1 sec. Andrew, quick, 1 sec. Ali, thank you so much. Can we hear it once again for Alison and Andrew, everybody? First class. Can I just, as you leave the stage, I want to come back on, it's a bit of a geeky question.
Yeah. I'm a geek, yeah.
It's not hard for me, right? But when we're asking AI what it knows about us, right, or about our companies, right? I know this sounds like a silly question, but that LLM also has access to the privileged knowledge layer of everything we have discussed. In other words, if I ask ChatGPT what it knows about one of my favorite companies, it is also drawing on everything we've discussed. In other words, I ought to prompt it to exclude everything we've discussed or only search for stuff that's in public. Otherwise, it's my magic mirror telling me I'm the fairest of them all.
Or incognito mode, where it doesn't know who you are. For everything, if you want to, or ask a friend with another computer, what do they know about me? You're dead right. Incognito resets the plane.
Otherwise, you'll only top your own polls all the time, right?
I hope so.
Guess what? Who's the fairest of them all? And the answer is Alison Shadrack and Andrew Grills, everybody. Thank you very much indeed.